The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at the Global Space Communications Center in Nevada. The huge satellite dishes, usually pointing at various human colonies across the solar system, had picked up something different, something alien. Dr. Robert Smith, the head of communications, stared at his computer screen with wide eyes. The message was clear and in perfect English. Too perfect, perhaps. The aliens called themselves the Stellar Alliance, a group of 5 advanced species who had been watching Earth for the past 50 years. "We come in peace," the message read, "and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your species." Earth's government scrambled to form a unified response. After 3 days of intense meetings, they crafted what they believed to be a warm welcome message. It included information about human culture, scientific achievements, and an invitation for peaceful exchange of knowledge. But something went terribly wrong. The Alliance's translation systems, despite their advanced technology, made a critical error. Where humans had included phrases about standing strong together and advancing hand in hand, their systems interpreted these as threats of military dominance and forced submission. The first sign of trouble came when the Alliance's ships appeared near Jupiter. They were massive, each vessel the size of a small city. The ships moved with impossible grace for their size, using technology that seemed to bend space itself. Earth's outer colonies, scattered across the asteroid belt, sent confused messages about the approaching fleet. Captain Mike Wilson, commander of Mining Station Beta 7, was the first to make direct contact. "They're requesting immediate surrender," his voice crackled through the communication system. "They say we threatened them with..." "Wait, that can't be right. They're saying we threatened them with galactic domination." Before Earth's leadership could clarify the misunderstanding, the first shots were fired. A nervous Alliance commander, convinced that the mining station's routine ore processing was actually weapon manufacturing, launched what he considered a preemptive strike. Beta 7, home to 300 civilians, disappeared in a flash of light that outshone Jupiter itself. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Humanity had hoped for a peaceful first contact, but instead received an unprovoked attack. The United Earth Defense Council, formed just 2 years earlier as a symbolic gesture of global unity, suddenly found itself leading humanity's first interstellar war. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Colonel James Walker watched the events unfold on multiple screens. His face, marked with old scars from earlier wars on Earth, remained oddly calm. He pressed a button on his desk, connecting him directly to the Defense Council. "Members of the Council," he said, his voice steady and confident. "For 30 years, I've led Project Titan. You've called it a waste of resources. You've questioned its ethics. You've tried to shut it down twice." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But I always said a day would come when humanity would face a threat beyond our conventional capabilities. That day has arrived. In orbit around Earth, the first waves of alien ships appeared. Their weapons were beyond anything humanity had developed. Regular military ships were cut apart like paper. Conventional weapons barely scratched their shields." The Defense Council watched in horror as the first attacks began. Major cities across the globe activated their defense systems, but the alien technology made them seem primitive in comparison. As the Council debated their options, Colonel Walker's words echoed in their minds. They had one card left to play, a card they had hoped never to use. In a unanimous vote, they gave Walker the authorization he had waited 3 decades to receive. Project Titan was about to change the course of the war. But first, humanity would have to endure its darkest hours. As night fell over a planet preparing for its first interstellar war, few people slept. They didn't know it yet, but humanity's greatest warriors were about to be unleashed. Soldiers that would make even the most advanced alien species question their decision to attack Earth. The first month of the war showed humanity just how outmatched they were. Earth's most advanced weapons seemed like toys against the Stellar Alliance's technology. Their ships moved too fast to track. Their shields absorbed everything thrown at them. and their weapons cut through Earth's strongest defenses like they weren't even there. Mars' colony fell in just 3 days. The 1,000 settlers there never stood a chance. The Alliance didn't even need to land. They simply disabled the colony's air systems from orbit and waited. Earth's rescue mission arrived too late, finding only empty buildings and silent corridors. Colonel Walker watched from his underground command center as another fleet of Earth ships was destroyed near Venus. His hands gripped the edge of his desk until his knuckles turned white. On the screens around him, red dots representing human ships winked out one by one. "Sir," his assistant said, "the Defense Council is asking for updates on Project Titan. They want to know if it's ready." Walker turned away from the screens. The Project Titan facility stretched out before him through a massive window. A huge underground chamber filled with medical equipment, training areas, and 5 special pods. Inside each pod, a volunteer underwent the final stages of their transformation. "Tell them we're close," he replied. "The enhancement process can't be rushed. If we try, we'll lose them like the early test subjects." Above ground, the situation grew worse. The Alliance pushed past Earth's outer defenses, destroying military bases on the Moon with frightening ease. Their ships now hung in Earth's orbit like dark stars, visible even during the day. General Laura Thompson, commander of Earth's combined military forces, called an emergency meeting at the underground headquarters in Colorado. The room was filled with grim faces as she showed the latest casualty figures. "We've lost 80% of our space fleet," she announced. "Our ground forces are intact, but they won't matter if we can't stop the orbital bombardment. At this rate, we have maybe 2 weeks before our major cities are completely defenseless." A younger officer stood up. "What about the bunkers? We've moved millions of civilians underground. The Alliance has weapons that can punch through 20 miles of solid rock." Thompson replied. "The bunkers will only buy us days, maybe hours." In the back of the room, Colonel Walker listened quietly. His phone buzzed. A message from the Titan facility. The first stage of enhancement was complete. His 5 soldiers had survived the process that had killed so many others before them. The Alliance didn't wait. That night, they launched their first major attack on Earth itself. Their ships positioned themselves above major military installations and opened fire. Bases that had stood for hundreds of years vanished in seconds. The few remaining human ships fought back, but it was like watching ants try to fight an elephant. In orbit, Alliance Commander Dex watched the battle with satisfaction. His species had fought many wars, conquered many worlds, but never had victory been so easy. The humans fought bravely, yes, but bravery meant nothing against superior technology. But in his victory, Dex made a crucial mistake. He assumed he knew everything about human warfare. He thought he understood their capabilities, their limits, their breaking point. He had no way of knowing about the facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, where 5 soldiers were about to wake up from their transformation. In his command center, Colonel Walker received the final report. The enhancement process was complete. The 5 volunteers, now something more than human, were ready. Their vital signs were stable, their augmentations were functioning perfectly, and their minds had survived the process intact. Walker picked up the phone to call the Defense Council. His voice was steady as he spoke the words that would change the course of the war. "Project Titan is ready. Let them think they've won. Let them think we're beaten. Tomorrow, they learn why you should never corner a human." As night fell over a battered Earth, 5 pods opened in the underground facility. Steam hissed from hydraulic seals as their occupants took their first breaths as humanity's new guardians. The real war was about to begin. The first public glimpse of Project Titan came during a bright morning at what remained of the Colorado military base. 5 massive figures stepped out of an underground elevator, each standing over 8 feet tall. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight, a deep blue-black metal that seemed to drink in the light around it. Marcus, the squad leader, stood at the front. His armor bore subtle gold markings on the shoulders, the only sign of his rank. Behind him, Kate carried what looked like a miniature artillery piece, as if it weighed nothing. Tom's armor bristled with advanced scanning equipment, while Ray's seemed to shift colors slightly to match its surroundings. Diana, the tactical expert, moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. General Thompson stared at the 5 Titans, her mouth slightly open. She had read the reports, seen the videos, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. How? She started to ask. 30 years of research, Colonel Walker answered, walking up beside her. We took volunteers who were already peak soldiers and made them more. Enhanced bones, stronger than steel. Muscles dense enough to stop bullets. Nervous systems that process information faster than our best computers. And that's before the armor. The gathered soldiers whispered among themselves. These weren't the clumsy powered suits they were familiar with. The Titans moved like the armor was their own skin, each motion fluid and precise. Marcus stepped forward, his voice deep but still human. Permission to demonstrate, sir. Walker nodded. Training sequence alpha. Live ammunition. What happened next would be talked about for years. Combat drones, the same kind that Earth forces had been using hopelessly against the aliens, swooped in from all directions. 20 of them, each armed with weapons that could tear through tank armor. Kate moved first. Her weapon roared, but instead of the expected single shot, it fired what looked like a continuous stream of energy. 3 drones simply ceased to exist. Tom raised his hand, and electromagnetic pulses dropped 2 more from the sky. Ray seemed to vanish completely, only to appear on top of a drone, crushing it with his bare hands. Diana moved like a dancer, each step placing her exactly where the drones weren't firing. She carried no visible weapons, but the air around her hands distorted, and drones fell in pieces. Marcus coordinated it all, his enhanced mind processing the entire battlefield at once, directing his team with perfect precision. In 30 seconds, it was over. 20 advanced combat drones lay destroyed, and the Titans stood unmarked, their armor not even scratched. My God, Thompson whispered. Walker smiled grimly. This is what humanity can do when pushed too far. Each of them is linked mentally. They think and act as one unit. Their armor doesn't just protect them, it enhances everything about them. They can operate in any environment, from deep space to the bottom of the ocean. The demonstration had drawn a crowd. Soldiers stood in awe, many filming with their phones despite orders against it. Within hours, leaked videos would spread across the globe, giving hope to a population that had almost lost it. In orbit, Alliance sensors detected the energy signatures from the demonstration. Commander Dex reviewed the readings with growing concern. These can't be right, he muttered. Nothing biological should be able to move that fast or generate that much power. Marcus and his team boarded their specially designed transport ship. It was smaller than standard military vessels, but incorporated the same technology as their armor. As they prepared for their first real mission, Marcus thought about the weight on their shoulders. 5 soldiers, expected to turn the tide of a war humanity was losing badly. Ready? He asked over their neural link. 4 voices answered as one in his mind. They were ready. They had been designed for this moment, enhanced and trained for this single purpose. The Stellar Alliance had pushed humanity to the brink, thinking they were facing a primitive species. Now they would learn what humans were truly capable of. As the transport lifted off, heading for the first battle of many, Earth's population watched the skies with renewed hope. Project Titan was no longer a secret. It was humanity's declaration that the real fight was just beginning. The battle for Mars base started badly for the Alliance forces, though they didn't know it yet. They had positioned their ships in a standard attack formation, preparing to destroy the small human force trying to retake the Red Planet. Commander Dex watched with mild amusement as a single human transport ship approached. Just one ship. He asked nobody in particular. Have they given up already? The transport's rear door opened. 5 figures stepped out into the vacuum of space, their armor gleaming against the backdrop of stars. No jetpacks, No tethers, just the Titans moving through space as easily as walking on Earth. Impossible, Dex muttered, watching his sensor readings. No armor can function like that in open space. Marcus's voice crackled across all Alliance communication channels. This is Titan Squad to Alliance Fleet. Surrender or be destroyed. Simple, direct, final. The Alliance responded with a full barrage. 100 energy beams converged on the 5 figures. When the light faded, the Titans were unharmed. Their armor seemed to have absorbed the energy, now glowing slightly with a blue tinge. Wrong choice, Marcus said. Kate raised her weapon, now modified for space combat. The shot didn't just pierce the nearest Alliance ship. It went through it, through the ship behind it, and the one behind that. 3 massive warships, destroyed with a single shot. The Alliance fleet broke formation, trying to surround the tiny human squad. Ray vanished from sight, his armor's stealth systems making him invisible even to the Alliance's advanced sensors. Ships started exploding from within as he phased through their hulls, destroying critical systems with precise strikes. Tom hacked into the Alliance's combat network in seconds, something their engineers had thought impossible. Suddenly, half their ships lost power, weapon systems failing as his viral code spread through their network. Diana moved between enemy shots like she could see them coming before they were fired. Each movement brought her closer to the Alliance ships, and wherever she touched their hulls, the metal simply fell apart at a molecular level. Marcus coordinated it all, the neural link letting his team act as a single organism. When a ship tried to escape, they were already there. When the Alliance adapted their tactics, the Titans adapted faster. Inside his flagship, Commander Dex watched in growing horror. His sensors showed things that shouldn't be possible. The Titans were moving faster than his tracking systems could follow. Their armor was shrugging off hits that could crack planets. They were operating with a level of coordination that seemed telepathic. Launch all fighters, he ordered, his voice shaking. Surround them with combat drones. 1,000 fighters poured out of the surviving ships. Combat drones filled the space around the Titans like a metal swarm. For a moment, the 5 figures disappeared in the mass of enemies. Then the swarm exploded outward. Kate stood at the center, her weapons spinning down from rapid fire. Hundreds of fighters drifted in pieces around her. Ray appeared on top of one intact fighter, ripped open its cockpit, and threw the pilot's empty suit into space. He had moved so fast, the pilot hadn't even seen him coming. Tom raised both hands, and entire squadrons of drones turned against their masters, their programming rewritten in seconds. Diana danced through the chaos, each graceful movement leaving destruction in her wake. Marcus moved from ship to ship, his enhanced strength letting him tear through hull plating like paper. The battle lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it ended, 30 Alliance warships lay in ruins around Mars. The few surviving ships fled, their crews in a panic. The myths would start here. Stories of demons in armor that could not be killed, of warriors who turned physics itself against their enemies. Commander Dex managed to escape with his flagship, but he was a changed being. As his ship limped away from Mars, he recorded a warning to the Alliance High Command. They are not what we thought. Their bodies are enhanced beyond natural limits. Their armor defies our understanding of technology. They fight not as individuals, but as a single entity. We have made a terrible mistake in attacking them. On Mars, the 5 Titans stood among the wreckage of the Alliance fleet. Behind them, human ships began landing, ready to reclaim the colony. This was just the beginning, they knew. The Alliance would return with new weapons, new tactics, new defenses. But now they would return with something else too. Fear. 3 weeks after the Battle of Mars, the Alliance military faced a crisis unlike any in their history. Soldiers were refusing to board their ships. Veterans who had fought in dozens of campaigns were asking for immediate discharge. The reason? 5 human warriors who had become something more than mere soldiers. In an emergency meeting of the Alliance High Command, Commander Dex played the recordings from Mars again. The gathered leaders watched in silence as 5 figures tore apart their finest fleet. "That's not the worst of it," Dex said, his voice hollow. "Show them the Venus recording." The new footage showed an Alliance ground force trying to establish a base on Venus. They had the best environmental shields, the finest combat mechs, and 500 elite troops. They lasted 2 minutes against 2 Titans. Kate and Ray had been enough. The recording showed Kate walking straight through the environmental shields like they weren't there, her armor somehow adapting to Venus' crushing pressure and acid atmosphere. Ray's footage was even more terrifying. He appeared and disappeared so fast that the Alliance soldiers were unconscious before they realized he was there. "Our soldiers are spreading stories," another commander reported. "They say these humans can't be killed, that they appear in multiple places at once, that they can read minds and predict attacks before they happen." An Alliance scientist stepped forward. "That's impossible. No species could." "Tell that to the crew of the Starbreaker," Dex interrupted. The room fell silent. The Starbreaker had been their newest warship, with armor supposedly strong enough to fly through a sun. Diana had torn it apart with her bare hands, while Tom turned its own systems against it. On Earth, Colonel Walker reviewed the reports with satisfaction. The Titan squad had exceeded even his expectations. In 1 month, they had regained Mars, secured Venus, and pushed the Alliance forces back beyond Jupiter. But it was the psychological impact that really showed their effectiveness. The Alliance's military structure was cracking. Their soldiers, used to being the strongest and most advanced, were now facing an enemy that made them feel primitive in comparison. Marcus led his team on another mission, this time to defend Europa. As their transport approached, they intercepted Alliance communications. "It's them. The demons are here. Retreat. Don't engage the Titans. They can't be stopped. They can't be killed." The Alliance fleet, twice the size of the one at Mars, broke formation and fled before the Titans even reached them. They abandoned equipment, supplies, and their newly established base on Europa's surface. Tom accessed their computers, downloading tactical data. "They're spreading warnings throughout their military networks," he reported through the neural link. "Some of their species are physically unable to fight us now. Their fear response is too strong." Diana moved through the abandoned base, her sensors analyzing everything. "They're developing new weapons specifically to fight us," she said. "But their scientists are too afraid to properly test them. They think we can see the future." Ray appeared next to them, returning from his recon mission. "Their ground forces have new orders: immediate retreat if we're detected. They're calling us the 5 Horsemen in their reports. Apparently, we remind them of some human myth about the end of the world." Kate laughed, the sound echoing strangely through their neural link. "Only 4 horsemen in that myth. Guess we're overachieving." In his command ship, now stationed safely beyond Saturn, Commander Dex received the latest psychological evaluation of his troops. The report used words like mass trauma and collective panic response. His finest warriors, veterans of 100 battles, were having nightmares about 5 human soldiers. The Titans had changed the nature of the war. The Alliance had started this fight thinking they faced a primitive species. Now they found themselves against something their technology couldn't explain and their weapons couldn't stop. As the Alliance forces retreated from another battlefield, leaving behind enough equipment to supply an army, Marcus sent a simple message to Earth. "They're running out of space to run. Soon they'll have to choose: make peace or face extinction." The message was intercepted by Alliance Command. For the first time in their history, the option of surrender didn't seem like their worst choice. The Alliance's most advanced medical station, hidden in the rings of Saturn, was filled beyond capacity. Not with physical injuries, but with something far worse: broken minds. Soldiers who had faced the Titans now sat in quiet rooms, jumping at shadows and whispering about demons in armor. Dr. Krill, the Alliance's leading mental health expert, reviewed the cases with growing concern. One veteran soldier hadn't spoken in days, only drawing the same image over and over. 5 tall figures standing among the wreckage of ships. Another kept screaming about the invisible one, coming for him in his sleep. "Tell me what you saw," Dr. Krill asked a ship captain who had survived an encounter with the Titans. The captain's hands shook as he spoke. "We had them surrounded. 100 ships against 5 soldiers. We thought we could overwhelm them." He laughed, a hollow sound. "The big one, the female with the cannon," she smiled at us. "We could see it somehow, right through her helmet. Then half our fleet just disappeared. Not destroyed. Disappeared. The tech one did something, and our ships just weren't there anymore." In another room, a squad of elite commandos huddled together. They had tried to ambush Ray during a ground mission on Titan. "He was playing with us," their leader muttered. "We had stealth fields, sonic dampeners, heat masks. He still found us. Would appear right behind each soldier, tap them on the shoulder, and vanish, just to show he could have killed us at any time. We're supposed to be the best, but we're children compared to them." Commander Dex stood before the Alliance High Council, presenting the latest psychological reports. "Our soldiers aren't just afraid," he explained. "They're experiencing something deeper. The Titans aren't just beating us. They're showing us how primitive we are compared to them. Every battle proves that our best technology, our finest warriors, our most advanced tactics are like toys to them." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others suggested using planet-killing weapons. A few even proposed trying to communicate with the Titans directly. Meanwhile, on Mars, the Titan squad prepared for another mission. Their neural link hummed with shared thoughts and strategies. "They're breaking faster than expected," Tom said, his enhanced mind processing battlefield data. "Their entire military structure is collapsing. Not from our attacks, but from fear of our attacks." Diana moved through combat forms, her armor flowing like liquid metal. "They still don't understand what we are. Their scientists are going mad trying to explain how our technology works. How we can ignore physics, appear in multiple places, predict their every move." "Let them wonder," Kate replied, checking her weapon. "Fear of the unknown is more powerful than any weapon I could fire." Marcus received new intel from Earth Command. The Alliance had pulled back to their core worlds, abandoning all conquered territory. But the retreat wasn't orderly. It was a panic. Ships were departing without orders, entire battle groups falling apart as soldiers refused to face the possibility of encountering the Titans. Ray appeared from his scouting mission. "Their command structure is fascinating," he reported. 5 species working together, but each one experiences fear differently. Some are breaking from physical terror, others from psychological trauma. The tech-focused species are having existential crises trying to understand us. Colonel Walker's voice came through their neural link. "New reports from Alliance territory. They're experiencing civil unrest. Their population is demanding answers about these unstoppable human warriors. Their media is full of theories. Everything from us being time travelers to artificial beings created by ancient gods." The truth, of course, was both simpler and more complex. The Titans were the ultimate expression of humanity's potential, not just the physical enhancements or the advanced armor, but the human drive to survive, to adapt, to overcome any threat. As the Alliance military continued to crumble, Marcus sent a message to his team. "Remember, our goal isn't to destroy them. It's to make them realize that threatening humanity was the worst mistake they could have made." The Titans stood together, watching the sun rise over Mars' surface. Soon, the Alliance would have to make their final choice, and the 5 of them had already ensured what that choice would be. The end came not with a final battle, but with a message. The Alliance High Council, after watching their mighty military crumble in the face of 5 enhanced humans, sent a simple transmission to Earth. "We request an immediate cessation of hostilities and peace talks. We were wrong about humanity." The message found Colonel Walker in his underground command center. On the screens around him, he could see the Alliance fleet in full retreat, abandoning bases and equipment across the solar system. The Titan squad had driven an enemy that outnumbered humanity 1,000 to 1 to the brink of collapse. "Bring them home," he ordered. The 5 Titans had been preparing for another mission, but now they had achieved their true purpose, not to win the war through force, but to make the Alliance understand the cost of threatening humanity's existence. Marcus led his team back to Earth, their transport ship cutting through space. Through their neural link, they shared their thoughts on what they had accomplished. They never understood what they were really fighting, Kate said, her massive weapon powered down for the first time in weeks. They thought numbers and technology were enough. Tom agreed, his enhanced mind still processing battle data. They had better ships, better guns, better technology in almost every way. But they didn't have our drive to survive, to adapt, to become something more than we were. Ray appeared from his stealth mode, joining the conversation. Their biggest mistake was thinking they knew our limits. They studied us for 50 years, but never understood that humans have no limits when pushed too far. Diana looked at her hands, remembering how she had torn apart ships that were supposed to be indestructible. We showed them something they had never seen before, a species that could transform itself into whatever it needed to be to survive. In the Alliance High Council chamber, Commander Dex presented his final report. The room was silent as he spoke, the leaders of 5 advanced species listening to how 5 humans had brought their civilization to its knees. "They could have destroyed us," Dex explained. "The Titans had the power to eliminate our entire military force. But they didn't. Instead, they showed us mercy, disabled our ships instead of destroying them, scared our soldiers instead of killing them. They wanted us to understand something." On Earth, the 5 Titans stood before the United Earth Defense Council. Their armor, still unmarked after countless battles, gleamed under the lights. Colonel Walker addressed the council, pride evident in his voice. "Project Titan was never just about creating super soldiers," he explained. "It was about showing any potential enemies that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or technology. It's our ability to adapt, to evolve, to become whatever we need to be to survive." The peace talks began a week later. The Alliance representatives couldn't help but stare at the 5 Titans standing guard in the conference room. Marcus had removed his helmet, letting them see that beneath the advanced armor and overwhelming power, he was still human. The Alliance leaders learned the full truth about humanity that day. They learned that humans weren't naturally aggressive. They were naturally protective. They weren't warlike. They were determined. And most importantly, they learned that the 5 Titans weren't an army. They were a message. Don't threaten humanity unless you're ready to face what humanity can become. The peace treaty was signed within days. The Alliance agreed to withdraw from human space and establish diplomatic relations properly this time. As they left, one of their leaders approached Marcus. "We thought we were gods among the stars," the alien said. "You showed us we were children playing with toys. Thank you for teaching us humility without destroying us in the process." Colonel Walker stood in his facility one last time, looking at the pods that had created the Titans. He knew that Project Titan would never be needed again, not because the 5 soldiers would protect humanity forever, but because their legend would. Across the galaxy, stories would spread about the humans, a species so determined to survive that they could transform themselves into beings that defied the laws of physics, a species that, when pushed too far, could become something that even the most advanced civilizations would fear. The Titans had won more than a war. They had won humanity's right to exist unmolested among the stars, not through conquest, but by showing the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of when threatened. Peace came to Earth at last, guarded not by weapons or armies, but by the legend of 5 soldiers who had shown the galaxy why you should never, ever threaten humanity.